There is. So I'm going to mute everybody at this point, except for John. So I want to thank you all for coming in today to this second episode of our Alpha Chi Rhoad show, which was intended to be a way to get brothers together for different kinds of topics, hopefully really interesting, informative, and give a chance for a brother who is an expert in a specific industry to answer any questions you guys may have and kind of give a literally bird's eye view of what's happening in that industry. So we have about 57, I believe, people registered for this. Not all people register and sign on. Some just want to register so they get the recording. We are recording this. It'll be sent out to all of you at the end of this, along with a survey. So I do appreciate you all participating. But again, it's another way just to get people connected. Some of you are probably so sick and tired of Zoom meetings, but hopefully this will be a little bit of a different one that you're used to. Just for future reference, if you're familiar with Zoom, the chat box is on this side. You can enter in your questions. If you've got some now, just start preloading up the questions so everyone can see, or you can send them directly to me. And I'll keep them in mind as John and I are bantering back and forth the first part of this conversation. I'll be able to throw some of your questions in about anything you have about the beer industry and how this is all being affected. Anything from national trends to bar ownerships and financial recall and live events. We're going to go through all that stuff today. And from his perspective. So hopefully we'll get to the heart of that. If you have a glass, raise your glass and cheers to hopefully beer, not no beer, which is what it said. And we will get started. So John DeRenzi, you wave your hand in front of the camera. John is a 1991 graduate, Westchester University. I like to say he was part of the dream team for that group. That year in 91, the Westchester University chapter, the Phi Nu Chi chapter, won the Curly Walden Award. So it's great to see that like almost 25 years, or a little more than 25 years later after that, this same group of guys that are part of that team came back and said, we're going to bring back the Westchester group. I see Pete Galloway over there. He was really one of the advisors and the strongholds and anchors for that group for many, many years. The good news is, they paid it back and actually paid it forward because we have a colony that just got approved by the National Council to be chartered again. So we have a great group of men at Westchester. John and his buddies are essentially the advisory board for this group. And if it wasn't for them, I don't think this would have ever happened. We went up against 6 groups and we presented with 6 total groups at Westchester. And the IFC said, hands down, they wanted Alpha Chi Rhoad because of the way the alumni just presented it. I know David Jost was there during that. I was there. It was an incredible way to show an outpouring of finances. They were supporting the foundation financially. They came back and said, we're going to support our time and effort. We're going to do everything we can. And these guys, this group of men are great. So thanks, John, for your financial support, your volunteer work and support with us. You're a great example of a brother and who we really need to bring the fraternity forward. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'm going to skip the intro about it. I'm going to let you kind of tell me a little bit more, tell everybody more about what you do on your end with Penn Beer, how it's associated with Anheuser-Busch, kind of what's your area and expertise, what's the scope of your job?
So I'm the vice president of sales and marketing for Penn Beer. We're a 12 million case wholesaler in, I guess you would say, southeastern Pennsylvania. So think, Philadelphia to Reading to Allentown, the 8 counties in southeastern PA. Our largest supplier is Anheuser-Busch, but we also sell about 39 other smaller breweries from New Belgium in Colorado to Victory in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, and many, many in between. So we have a phenomenal portfolio of micro, macro, national, local craft brewers. I specialize in the on-premise. So I have 4,000 bars in those 8 counties. And I also do all the marketing and deals locally with all the sports teams. So from the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs to the Phillies, the Eagles, and anybody in between, I'm working with those teams on a daily basis. So as great as that sounds, it's still a job, right? We all have them to do. Right now, my job is being affected by this to the tune of about 87% down over last year. With the sports teams down to 0, so 108% down because they sent their beer back in March when all this happened. So it's really affecting my industry, not in terms of killing the industry, because actually beer is up. The beer distributors, who from Pennsylvania would know what I mean, it's basically the warehouse stores, supermarkets, and convenience are through the roof, whereas bars are taking a bath. But so again, my role, I have a bunch of people under me that sell to the bars, and that's basically what I do. So I'm a beer guy. 25 years this year. Left Westchester, started selling beer. So that's what I do.
So what do you you had a lot of stuff in there, but what are you seeing happening? Like, we'll take Philadelphia
Yeah.
since that's your area. You oversee, you said 3,800
About 4,000 bars
4,000 bars and
in
restaurants.
that, or licenses in that total area. So working with Anheuser-Busch nationally, we get a lot of information worldwide, nationwide, and of course locally. Unfortunately, we're thinking that about 30% of the bars that are closed right now will not reopen. If you did not have a plan to pivot from selling draft beer or beer over the bar, and you were not prepared to sell food out the front door or take out beer out the front door, a lot of people just closed their doors and said, okay, I'll see you in a month. Well, that was 2 months ago, and there's no real end in sight right now. If you're from the Pennsylvania or your own areas, there are a lot of red, yellow, green, right? And Philadelphia area, southeastern Pennsylvania, we are in a red zone. And then they say it's going to go to yellow and then go to green. But that's going to be probably maybe July 4th or something that we're going to see these bars maybe be allowed to open. And when they do, what's their capacity going to be? How many people are going to show up? How many people are going to want to be shoulder to shoulder, sharing a rock glass that somebody drank and you supposedly cleaned? How many people are going to want that waiter to come up to their table, with their thumb, just on that plate a little bit? But, it's going to be interesting to see when people come back. I think you're going to have a group that go back 1 minute after they say you can, right? That's going to be a great influx of people. But then I think you'll see, and from what we see overseas with the countries that are, opening back up, we're seeing just that. You're seeing a great rush back, but then a nice dip, and then kind of back to 30 to 40% below where they were. And that's only, weeks now, but, it's a good look at it. In the U.S., a lot of your rural areas, some of them never even stop. Their bars are open. People are doing their thing. But for most of the country, we're expecting to see a lot of lost businesses that can't sustain it, because even when you come back, a lot of models are built. What a lot of people don't realize is there's not a lot of profit in the bar business, but when they come back, can they survive on 50% of that business, 60% of that business until they ramp up to fill the building? It's going to be interesting.
You mentioned, Phillies, Eagles, athletics. Talk about like baseball is not going on. You and I briefly before the call were talking about tailgates and NFL football games. Like what are they, what's the word on the street about that stuff?
So, from what we're seeing, and I was talking to both the Phillies and the Eagles today, fans are just not in the cards. Major League Baseball, maybe if you guys are sports fans, they put a proposal out there for an 82 game season with 41 home games at your home ballpark and then on the road. But no fans. They said about 100 people in the building. That's including the teams and then staff to support those teams. So I don't think you're going to see baseball fans till towards maybe the end of the season. The NBA already said a shortened maybe playoff season and no fans. And the NFL has a few months to look at it and decide what they're going to do. But they're talking about maybe if you take Lincoln Financial Field, for example, and hold 67,000, they would do maybe 15,000 people in the building, spread them all out to where, you get assigned a seat, you get a lottery ticket, and maybe if I have season tickets, I wouldn't get every game. But they're still, working all that stuff out. You're talking billions of dollars in revenue that they're looking at. For me particularly, no fans in the stands doesn't really help me in terms of why I spend what I spend to sponsor those teams. And you can only have so many virtual parties and virtual tailgates. And here in the city of Philadelphia, a tailgate wouldn't even be allowed right now because you just couldn't gather with more than a handful of people. So, for anybody out there, anybody in this group that is a sports fan, it's just not sure what it's going to affect. But people have mentioned it's scary. Maybe not until the 2021 season will you see anything like we used to. Until there's a pill, a shot, a vaccine, it may not be back to normal for a little while. So it's kind of scary.
A couple things over in the comments are the top minor hockey league just canceled their season. And then Victor Ramos posed the question, what is your thought on NCAA football for the fall, like college football?
I mean, that's, I know Pete Galloway from Westchester University is on here as well. I have a senior at Westchester, and we don't know. We're not going to know for a couple months if there's going to be a fall season. And I can't imagine if there's no students back on campus, how they're going to put a fall season together for, say, football. And, when you see what everything you read about this, COVID disease, it's, by mouth, by, your vapor trail, in a sense, people banging into each other with football pads and basketball. I just can't see it happening without a lot of people getting, possibly getting sick. And again, if you're a young college athlete, do you really worry about it? I don't know, but God forbid there's a tragedy out there. I don't think anyone's going to take that risk until they're told it could happen. So we have a little bit of time, but if the kids aren't on campus, I don't think you're going to see a fall sport schedule at all, which would just be horrible.
I guess same thing with concerts and live events too.
Yeah. So Live Nation in Philadelphia, we have a couple places, the Met and the Fillmore. They've taken all our June concerts and have moved them to June of 2021. There's no plan in place to open any of those places up yet. I think they're going to follow any arena leagues like the NBA and the NHL to see what they do. But, a lot of people are moving, just canceling everything. Maybe some outdoor shows if they can spread everybody out. But again, my dealings with those guys is you're not going to see concerts till at least the fourth quarter, probably first quarter 2021.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think Shane asked this question. It's like a two-parter. It says, what do you see the long-term projection of beer consumption ending up? You and I talked about although bars might be closing, beer sales are up.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. Again, one thing about our industry is if there's a recession, you just drink cheaper beer, right? You don't stop. Nobody stops. And what we've seen is more people are drinking at certain time of the day. I know my wife's wine glass seems to be filled at 4 o'clock now. Now it's 7 o'clock at night, so people are drinking. But we do expect it all to come back. We expect, like right now, if you looked at the numbers, the on-premise business, the bar business is down 70, 80, 90%, but the distributor business is all in the green. My company is down, but no more down than we would be in a normal year. We're actually probably going to come out of this a little bit better. Different, but more people are sampling beer. More people are buying large packs. You're not buying, the single can or the 6-pack anymore. You're buying a 30-pack. You're buying a 24-pack, and you're taking it home. And, what happens is when you put that 30-pack in the fridge and you're used to stopping at a bar, having a beer, now you come home, you just drink them. They're there. They don't sit in the fridge long. You want to put food in the fridge. So you say, okay, let me knock out a row of them. And it tends to happen, and people are drinking a little bit more. So, I think it'll come back in a different way, stronger in 6 to 8 months. I know my guys, my sales guys, I have 40 guys on the street. They're learning to do things differently, learning to how much money they can make by, selling beer a little bit cheaper because you want people walking through your door. So we're teaching our retailers different ways to sell beer. And I think when the bar opens and the taps start flowing again, they'll have another outlet. So I'm hoping, though a lot will not reopen, I'm hoping the guys that do are stronger and, can survive this if it happens again.
There's a couple of questions on here. It's Alan's on here too. You can unmute your phone, Alan. You had a couple questions about craft breweries. I was wondering if you can maybe ask that. If rather be Alan. I'll unmute you. I've unmuted you, Alan. If you want to ask your question about craft breweries.
Okay, yeah, let me move because the dogs are here with me too.
Okay.
As much as I love them, you people might not. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of craft. I live in North Jersey, and wondering what it's going to be like for the craft breweries that you handle in the Southeast Pennsylvania area.
Well,
Because
what
the
you're going
longer
to
it goes
see,
on, the worse it looks. I mean, I know a lot of people who are looking at losing their businesses and their livelihoods.
yeah, and that is what's going to happen. I mean, so a lot of our craft brewers have laid off or furloughed their people. Over the last 5 years, the model of a tap room for that craft brewer, like I'll use Victory, which is a brewer that I sell here in Philadelphia. They have breweries throughout Pennsylvania, and that model was a major profit center for them. It was like owning a restaurant, but they were able to take their beer, which they're making for a lot less, sell it at a profit, and those have been great. And all you guys on this call probably have seen, just the explosion of that small brewery that has great hamburgers, and you went and you hung out and they gave you those beautiful fries and a beautiful burger and you drank their beer. They're all over the place now, but that model with all of them being closed is hurting them. So your national craft brewer, like a New Belgium or even a Victory, which is local but national, they'll be fine. They're going to be okay. But the guys that literally had a six barrel unit in a garage that they were making beer for, it's going to be hard for them to start back up because the money, the banking industry that was loving to just throw money at these guys to go out and build, are you going to invest your life savings in it right now? I don't know. Are you going to be a bank willing to give a guy money to restart something that can shut down again, God forbid, in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, if something like this happens again? So I think you're going to see that same 30% shakeout of breweries, small breweries that, won't be able to sustain it. And, if these small stimulus bank loans get out there that don't have to be paid back, and the guys get lucky enough to get one of those, which, we're hearing different things, I think they'll be okay. But, the really small guys, it's going to be tough. It's more tough on their salesmen. Most of their sales guys and operations guys have been laid off or furloughed right now because there's just no reason to make the beer because their tap rooms are closed, and I'm not buying anything from them for the most part. But if you look at a brand like New Belgium, who's a national craft brewer, their business is up over 40% because they're a well-known beer that you can buy a little craftier in a beer distributor right now. So those brands, a Sierra Nevada, a New Belgium, they're flying off the shelves. But if you have to go looking for something and you go, oh, it's like something new isn't cool right now. It's like, I want to go in, get in there, grab my case and get the hell out. If they're looking, then those little brewers aren't anywhere to be found. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, in New Jersey, it's even worse because you can't sell food.
Right. Well, then,
so their margins are even tighter.
Yeah, and some of the laws there, with Jersey and Delaware and different laws in Pennsylvania, they really hamstring you. In Pennsylvania, small brewers have a lot of clout. Across the country, there's probably 34 states that if you're a craft brewer, you're better than a large brewer. But who expected this meteor to come out of the sky on March 16th and just stop everything? And a lot of them are sitting on beer. I have 13,000 kegs in my warehouse of various breweries that I can't sell that are going to go bad. That are more than likely.
Another question I had. How are you going to get rid of that? Because you just can't pour that in the sewers.
What's
But
your
you
address?
can,
What's your
like,
address, Alan?
yeah. So, and for my big brewer like Anheuser-Busch in New Belgium, they're going to take them back and decant all of it. How? I don't know. There's laws to it, legalities to what you can dump and where you can dump. But that's just me, one wholesaler with 13,000 kegs in my building, that are going to have to go back and be dumped, cleaned, refilled, hopefully, and sent back. But I'm not sure what part of North Jersey you're from, but our brewery's up in Newark. So if you start smelling some beer, it's dumping day, I guess. But I don't know how they're going to do it. I really don't.
All right, thanks, Alan. Ryan, you said you had a really complex, complicated question, so I'll let you handle that. So I'll mute you in here in a second. There you go. You're good.
Yeah, so just first of all, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Ryan Shaw. I own 2 dispensaries and a cultivation in Colorado. And we've also seen similar type of funky. We had a huge buildup in sales and then it dropped down, and now we're back to above average sales like he's describing. But one of the things that I was identifying was a divergence in your market segments. And like you were talking about, the let's call it the $15 12-pack-ish range has been doing well, like the craft beers and stuff like that. That's not stupid 1-packs for $15. You know what I mean? So I was just going to say, though, that I'm wondering if you're worried about some major trend changes. You already mentioned that 30% of the bars are likely to not reopen, and that 80% drop since last year is a monthly comparison for, like, I guess you did April or something like that.
Yeah, if you go back to St. Patrick's Day.
So are you gonna get into this this craft brewing and making like the middle shelf beer? Is that something you guys are gonna focus on?
Again, like I said, I deal with about 40 breweries. So, if you would look at us like an investment plan, we're pretty diversified across the board of what we sell. So remember, I don't make any beer. I just sell it. So I believe a lot of our breweries are going to focus on their lead, their target. Something that, people are talking about leading by style. If you go to your favorite bar and they have 40 taps, and that guy that owns that bar had probably $6,000 worth of beer in his basement that he did not sell. When he reopens, he's not going to reopen with 40 taps. He's probably going to reopen with 10. And those 10 are going to be a light beer, 3 IPAs, a Guinness, and then some things that he knows he's not going to get burned on. He's not going to buy a $350 keg of some crazy double IPA and then gets closed down in 2 days. More than likely, he's going to buy that $140 to $180 keg that he knows he can move if he has to. So I do think you're going to see a trend back to the, not macro, but, macro and a little less. The super micros might take a little bit longer. And again, I'm no expert. I think that's what the majority is going to do. And then you'll have some people that open up, put a $400 keg on, charge $13 for an 8-ounce snifter, and are fine. But I don't think you're going to see that for a little while. So I do think you're going to see a shift to that middle shelf.
Lower middle.
To see how that goes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm seeing the same thing. It's the same exact thing in cannabis. Cheap is definitely the volume, and yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Be interesting.
Thanks, Ryan. There was this ton. I'm trying to keep track of all the questions.
Yeah, I know. I can't even look at them that quick. Sorry.
I'm picking them together. But there was Steve Waterbury. I'm gonna unmute you. You asked about the alternate selling methods. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'm from the technology industry, and so we don't necessarily sell anything. It's consulting. And so we've seen a pretty significant shift in our customer base, embracing different ways in technological innovation and stuff. And from our own perspective, we are having to approach it a little bit differently too. We can't be on site with customers and things like that. From our local brewery standpoint, we've seen a lot of breweries in my area here in South Jersey who have embraced and started going the route of, web-based sales for takeout for pickup. And I was wondering if you guys on the larger scale and the distribution scale have been looking at alternate methods of going about and doing sales, whether it be direct to consumer stuff or other approaches like that.
Yeah. Yeah, e-commerce, I guess in the beer industry, it's basically called the same thing, right? And depending on what part of the country you're with and how big you're into beer, in Philadelphia area, it's called GoPuff, Drizzly, GoPuff. These are all basically delivery services like DoorDash.
We froze there, John. There you go.
I'm sorry.
You just froze for a second. You're good now.
Oh, okay. So like the Drizzlies and the GoPuffs of the world, where you go on, you could order a roll of toilet paper, a 6-pack of beer, and where it all started, it started in colleges, right, where kids can get a pint of Ben and Jerry's at 2:00 in the morning, and now there's Go Beer, and basically that has become a growing trend, and for us, it's actually an easy, profitable trend. All we're doing is going there with a tractor trailer, dropping beer off. They're doing all the delivering. They're handling all their own, websites. They're handling all that technology aspect of it. All we do is get them beer. And then Drizzly, where if you go by your local beer distributor, it's very similar to like a local DoorDash guy. People call in the Drizzly, and it's web based. It's zip code based, and they order a 6-pack of Bud Light or a 6-pack of something, and that guy just delivers them like a pizza delivery guy. So that's been the biggest trend shift that we've seen legally in PA. Now that supermarkets can sell beer and convenience stores starting to sell beer, that's been the monster over the last couple of years. But e-commerce with a place called GoPuff, and if you've never been on it, go on GoPuff.com and you see what you can get. It's pretty cool. And then, other ways of doing things, because we can't be in front of people. Of course, we're using our phones, our laptops, our iPads a lot more. And that may change the business. For me, we had Monday morning meetings every week for the last 25 years. Well, now our Monday morning meetings look like this. So now that we're 8 counties, why have people travel 30, 40 miles to the office when you could have them at their home? They get done their meeting, we hit leave meeting, and they're on the street instead of sitting around bullshitting, talking, doing what they have to do, and they can be back in the street. So that's going to be a major change we see, where we're not going to have people in the office. We wanted to go to this, but now we have to. So we're probably going to, save some time and energy down the road for not having to be on the street as much on certain meeting days, because, we can share a screen and I can do my meeting right here. So there are a lot of changes that are coming from this, some forced, some, we wanted to try. But in terms of delivering and getting your beer, there's so much more e-commerce out there than there was 4 or 5 years ago, that you can pretty much click on anything and get anything delivered to your house. And in most states, it's legal now for beer and wine. So there are a lot of changes that are there, and it's only going to get better and easier as we move forward.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep.
Victor's asking the question about how this relates to our undergraduates. We'll say the 21 and over, but the college market is what we were talking about. I'm going to unmute you, Victor. What specifically do you have about that?
Hey, John, a lot of us here are volunteers on the National Council or Housing Corps, and, what should we be aware of, promote, advise along these lines? Just any advice would be welcome.
Well, I don't know if I can answer this, but all of us on this call remembers that day when again, when we're talking about the beer industry, either enjoyed your first beer legally, or went to that first bar, or had a great time, whatever you were doing. And a lot of seniors or 21 people of age lost that this year. There's so many different things that people couldn't do. My daughter's a nurse at Jefferson, and I remember when she took her last test, and they all the nurses get on a bar crawl. Like, they missed all that. I don't know how we can do certain things, but I would say, and I've heard this, that when it comes back to being able to do things, they're going to go hard. Kids are going to go harder than maybe they ever have in that scene. So people are going to have to be very careful. There's got to be things in place to make sure everyone's being cautious and careful, that we're not just allowing, people to go crazy. So I don't know what we can, it's in education and giving people the information they need to be safe and to be smart. When again, that day, 12:01 midnight, they say we can go back to the bar. It's going to be crazy. So people are just going to have to be smart, and they don't overindulge and overimbibe. I'm not sure if this is what you're asking me, but I believe education and public service, Ubers, all that kind of stuff is going to be very, very important when the on-premise, the bar business opens back up. Again, I'm not sure if that answered it, but the normal days of young kids and of age, what I would call LDA, legal drinking age to 35, there has to be a ton of education out there, and I think you're going to see a lot of that, come back as soon as with all this public service announcements out there for first responders and our heroes and our frontline people. A lot of the spending, I know, in Philadelphia, $1 million budgets have just been kind of pushed aside to, instead of promoting, going out and having a great time, we're promoting staying home and being safe and staying home and drinking that 30 pack at your house and being with friends, being with neighbors, distance wise. But, I do believe you're going to see a lot more educational stuff coming out as it gets back to normal, as we reopen.
Yeah, that's I'm still unmuted, right? I'm still unmuted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just concerned. We have a lot of houses that potentially are going to come back in the fall. I'm gonna be popping on another webinar here in the next 20 minutes to talk about exactly that. And I can see that once things get back to, I hate using the term normal.
Yeah.
But I could see it being like was it the 21st Amendment that repealed the 19th Amendment?
Yeah.
And people going absolutely bonkers.
Yeah. It is a concern. And on my end, I got to weigh that middle line. I kind of want some things to be bonkers, but it's got to be smart, right? So I know. I think on campuses will be very interesting. You look at you look at that 18 to 21-year-old, that person that shouldn't be drinking until they're 21, and what they're doing right now. Some of them, having a beer at home a lot earlier than maybe they did with their parents or with their friends, and it's going to be a very interesting trend to watch come when it opens up again. We'll see.
If you see any insight,
I sure will.
Prior to the fall starting, it'd be helpful.
Yeah, I'll get your information off of Jay. I'll definitely have a lot of insight into what we see that I can send you.
He just has really great tailgating tickets to all the Penn State home games. That's all he's concerned about, really.
Yeah. Our friends up at Nittany Beverage will have a good time. We know that.
There you go. Thanks, Victor.
Thank you.
There's a question here. I think, is it Cole? I'm trying to remember his question. I was trying to scroll back here. It was about the keg business. Is the keg business virtually dead for the rest of the year? Did I get that right, Cole? I mute you here, but if I can. But
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the two questions I had. The other was how many employees is your standard kind of lower tier craft brewery have?
You're probably looking in the teens to 20s, depending on shifts. But it would depend. My wholesaler, and again, I'm selling, I'm not brewing. We're a little over 200 and something with delivery drivers, and we haven't had to lay anyone off or furlough anyone, thank God. But you're looking at teens to 20s for most small brewers, 40s and 50s when you add admin people in there, delivery people. But a regular brewing operation to work a couple of shifts, again, if it's their own money, if the brewer's the owner, he's probably brewing 16 hours a day rather than 3 shifts of 8. So, but you're looking at, teens to 20s that are in the market that are working for a lot of the beer that maybe you drink. But again, a lot of that sales department for them, for most of my guys, have been laid off. And again, it really depends. And I don't know the ins and outs of the loans and the stimulus package, but if they were able to get that money to keep their staff on, they are. And then the second thing on the kegs, dead, completely and utterly dead. We're selling from 600 to 1,000 a day to 40 to 70 a day. And the only ones we're selling now are highly, deeply, deeply discounted to guys that are either buying them for their own consumption at home, or he might be one of those takeout guys that is sitting on 700 growlers that they're filling up and selling out the front door. But it's bad right now. I mean, probably 96% down. And again, we in Philadelphia, this is a big draft market. This market sells a lot of expensive draft beer.
Thanks, Cole. Henry Glickel, I know you're online, but you had asked, you kind of made a comment about you saw an article that a power conference, NCAA football needs TV revenue, and if they can't get that revenue, there'll be major financial issues. They can't overcome.
Yeah,
it was playing empty stadiums. Is that right, Henry?
Yeah, it was the athletic director at the. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, it was the athletic director of Florida State University that basically was telling his board of directors or board of regents that if they did not have at least not the fans in the stadium, but the TV revenue, literally they wouldn't have the money to run any of the athletics, much less, and that just brings it to perspective, that says it's not just the state people in the stadium, although that's important. It's literally just having the football in Division I, just so that they can keep the doors and lights on. Forget how many students are coming or not going to be going to school or remote learning or who knows. So that's what the observation.
Well, I mean, even if you look at just the NFL, I mean, the Bud Light deal with the NFL is for $1 billion with a B, right? And now again, you can have NFL games with no fans. The fans help me, the local guy, to sell them beer. But nationally, you just want that, you want that big mark during commercials and stuff. But yes, I mean, when you look at the television revenue, what was lost on the NCAA tournament is unbelievable. Not necessarily for a Duke or a North Carolina, but a Wofford who gets in as a 16 seed gets to play on TV. They get a cut. They get some money for that. So a lot of those schools, and that's why you will see everything, because I mean, it's monetarily based, right? They're not going to miss that. You can maybe miss it a little bit, but you're going to have to come back and make that money eventually. That's why eventually it will be back. It just probably won't be back with fans, and hopefully it'll be back, as it's getting a little closer, and maybe move everything back a couple months. But I don't know. Fall sports in college is going to be a real tough one. It's going to be really, really close, and they're going to have to make a decision on money, health, and is it worth missing a year? Probably not for most, but they may have to make that very, very tough decision. But yeah, it's billions. It's not millions. It's billions. Some of these questions, I do not sell Pike in Reading. Great brewery, though, but I wish I did.
Let's see. There was one earlier about what are promotions and events going to look like in the new normal. But
so one thing on that, I spend probably a couple $100,000 a year on sampling. I have a great sampling company that if you walk into your local beer distributor or your bar, a young lady or young guy comes up to you and hey, you want to try this beer? You want to do this? We don't know when that's coming back. Two of my three kids have done that for me up at Westchester Widener University. That's how I kind of got them through, made a couple bucks in college. And that is kind of going by the wayside. Again, do you want a person you don't know handing you a sample of something you don't know where it kind of came from, how it was poured, where it came from? So that's going to have to change 100%. It's still the biggest part of our industry is sampling, so people can try something, because a lot of people don't want to pay $30 for a case of beer that they've never had. So that's going to be very, very interesting to see how that evolves over the next year. But right now, it's completely gone, and we'll see how it comes back in a more health conscious, way to have people do it. But it'll be interesting to see.
These are all great questions. Let's see, a couple new ones just came in. Do you think the pandemic will create a boom for brewers with commercial real estate prices about to collapse?
That's probably a little outside my my zone, but I think when all this, there's going to be a lot of fallout and a lot of people are going to go broke. But whenever there's a real problem and the dollar drops or the mortgage rates drop, somebody will come in with money and make a lot of money. And you'll probably in a year, you'll look back and say, my God, look at all the money these guys make, or look how big they are. How they're going to do it, I don't know. But just history shows there's going to be a lot of rich people that come out of this on the other end. A lot of on both sides. But I don't know exactly if I can answer the commercial real estate part of it. But somebody's going to make money.
I feel like just living in Philadelphia myself too, like there's been that big boom of pop-up bars and outdoor beer gardens. And I feel like those might be, you have to have good weather and it's got to be outside and it's going to be spread out. Like those will probably be okay.
Yeah. When they know they can, and when you could put, 25, 50, up to 500 people outside a huge summer event in Philadelphia is called SIPS. Every Wednesday night from 5 to 7, about 60 outdoor bars open up. $2 beer, $3 wine, $4 drink. They canceled it. They already canceled that completely. But I think if things break and the weather's still nice in September and October, I think you're going to see a lot more fall type of events, more Oktoberfesty sort of stuff if people are allowed to do it.
Henry asked another question about your in particular your staff. When restrictions start to loosen, what percentage of your staff are you bringing back? Did you have to furlough some of your staff?
No, we haven't laid a person off yet. Again, luckily,
I didn't think you said that.
my ownership's a very strong ownership with money. We do okay, and because though the business shift and there's like 40 people on my side and say 20 on the beer distributor side, the beer distributor side's doing so well that we haven't had to lay anybody off yet. That's not saying it won't happen if this continues, but knock on wood, not one person has lost a paycheck yet for my company. There may be a shift. We may have to put more people from the bars into convenience, into supermarkets. I think we're going to look a lot different a year from now, but knock on wood, drivers are essential to get the beer out. And we are deemed an essential business, thank God, in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. So no, right now we haven't had to lay anyone off. And if we did, it was always a furlough situation, not a layoff situation. So at the time it was like, if we had to do it, we'd be bringing everybody back. But knock on wood, we haven't had to do anything.
That poll that we did at the beginning, mostly everybody responded to it. When I asked like, what will social distancing do? Like, will it end? Looks like everybody's a good percentage, at least you'd say 60% are saying at least winter, probably not till next year. So everybody on this call thinks it's not gonna happen for quite some time.
I think you're looking at late fourth quarter, early first quarter for most of somewhat normalcy to come back in my industry, at least.
We have 15 minutes left, and I'm unmuting everybody if you'd like. I wanted to give the opportunity for anybody to make any comments or
Please help me. I'm doing all the talking.
Yeah, like we got time to like free for all. So if you any kind of comments on your end where you all are at, or what are you seeing in your areas? But I want to make sure when I do that, unmute yourself if you'd like to make a comment about what you're seeing. I see Gary unmuted himself.
John, I want to thank you for doing this. Sorry I was late. I for some reason I didn't get my reminder, and I was doing something else and got in a little late. But I really appreciate you doing this for the foundation and the fraternity and for all of us. It's nice to get together with other brothers and others, and and just shoot the shit, so to speak, and talk about something that is important to all of us, and of course that is beer. So anyway, I appreciate you doing this, and I hope that we can find other people to do the same thing for us down the road. If you have an expertise, or you're watching this after this is over, and you're going to watch the recording of it, and if you have something that you think might be a good road show for us, that would be great. We'd love to host it. So, once again,
yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And Jay, thank you for getting me involved and being so prepared and giving me some layups to answer. It's pretty nice. So thank you.
Other people have questions or thoughts, comments.
Hi, this is Henry. Couple of things, Sean. That was an excellent presentation for somebody that doesn't know a lot about beers, but places salespeople in that industry. One of the things we may want to do as a fraternity is maybe match the new grads with alumni brother to kind of help them, mentor them through this situation. Not that anybody can really have a grasp of the intensity of the implications of this economic pause, biological pause, whatever they call it now. I think this is going to take us a good 6 months to a year and a half to kind of begin to assemble to get back to 50 to plus % of our capacity. This is going to affect staffing all over the place, and I've seen it already. But that may be an idea that we can share among everybody. Is if brothers are interested, is matching them with other brothers or the new grads to help mentor them through everything that they need to get them through this, even if it's just a support system.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I think, I was looking through some of the people that are on here. You have so many, veterans of different industries and college graduates that can help so many people. I've always felt that, when you have an opportunity to have 40, 50 like-minded people on one call that could, help so many people that, we were, right? Whether it's 25 years ago or a little longer for some of you guys or a lot less for some of you guys. So, I mean, that's the one thing I always learned from being a part of the fraternity when we were there is, how can you give back and how can you help? And I think for people to take an hour out of their time to sit through something like this or last week's presentation, I think everybody on here would be that guy that would help. So, I know I'm available for anything like that. And I know some of the people I know on this screen would do the same thing. So whenever we can help the undergrads in a certain way, we should.
I want to just point out real quick that this event I think is really awesome. I think doing these different topics reminds me a lot of when I was in the American Chamber of Commerce in Tokyo and having, 4 events a month on very different business topics. I paid, $400 a month or something to be a part of that association. And I think, I'm not saying charge us all money, but I'm saying that recording these things and having these types of events is a huge value. And I've never met any of you guys. I've gotten to all of the University of Albany, Mu Chi Phi events and all sorts of different stuff, but this is a very, niche topic. And I think to record this and make a library of it for the undergrads is far more valuable. And, having the older gray hairs like us, even though I don't have as many as some of you guys, I would say is a real value. I think that this kind of alumni-based thing is one opportunity of this coronavirus. So thanks for taking the ball and running, Jay and team.
We need to stay connected. We've been missing a lot of this for a long time, and a lot of it's really out of our hands. But the trends of fraternity life, and us being a smaller national organization, it's been tough to kind of with staffing and communication tools and finances to really do it. But this, luckily, technology is advanced enough that we're able to reconnect through the power of Facebook and social media and email, and now through this. That's why it's really important when you guys fill out the survey afterwards to let us know other topics, or if you know people that have an expertise in a specific niche, I don't have any other planned. Nothing's planned after this. We just did 2 to kind of see how it would go, and we would love to hear more. I will tell you, John. Somebody asked a question, and they'll remain anonymous, but they wanted me to ask you, what do you think of the commissioner of the Westchester Football League?
I mean, I will be honest with you. I can see that he's on here, and there's just something, right? So we graduated from Westchester.
This is Dave Miller, right?
Dave Miller, yeah, he's the best. And 20 some years ago, and our league is still going. So we started it when we were, sophomores in college, and
What is the football league?
It's our fantasy league. It's our fantasy football league.
Ah, okay.
So we still, as a group, 12 on the league, but probably 20 to 30, get together a couple times a year. Still from Alpha Chi Rho, from our Phi Nu Chi chapter, and we're best of friends. And he is the best commissioner in the league, though. He was the guy that maybe I was like, I'm not sure if I want to join when I started, when I met him, but I joined anyway. And he's still the best.
Quick question. Is it going to be a cost-saving measure for a lot of these breweries to pretty much focus all of their distribution efforts into bottling and canning as opposed to kegging and other things?
Yeah, I'll tell you, we're very interested in where that's going to go, because as I mentioned, are you going to want to drink out of a pint glass that, was it clean the way you like it? Is everything going to go to plastic? Would you rather have your own can and, maybe wipe the top rather than grabbing a pint of beer? Cans in the last 10 years, probably less than that, 5 years, cans have become the prevalent way. They're easier to stack. They're lighter. You can put more on a trailer when you're delivering them. They're crushable. They're, pack them in, pack them out for recycling. So I believe it's even going to be a bigger shift to can business. And if somebody can come up, with another way to do a very good recyclable 16-ounce, 20-ounce cup, you might see that shift back to draft. But I think draft beer is going to be hit really, really hard over the next year. Just not sure who's going to want to invest in it, because you get stuck with it, and everybody got stuck with it. So I think you see even more of a shift to cans.
Our local breweries here in South Jersey are all providing free growlers with your fills. So
Yeah.
My thought has been on it that it's actually been more costly for them, because most people are going there. You'll pull up and stand in your line or whatever, and they're getting growlers of beer.
Yeah.
And there's higher overhead for them doing that. I mean, they obviously have less staff or whatever, but they're baking that into the price.
Yeah, and that's because they need to move that beer that they're sitting on. If that beer wasn't there, you probably would see a difference, because a lot of guys are trying to move it. I mean, you will see, and I couldn't believe this, but half-gallon milk containers and full-gallon milk containers, people must have bought at a really cheap price, and they're literally, you can go fill it up, like it'll say craft for $25 and domestic for 15. Literally a gallon of milk, a plastic jug, and people were selling them. And you never know, but I think that is just to clear inventory when it comes back. I think you'll see a 15-pack, 30-pack, lots of cans, because they're easy to store, and you don't get stuck with anything.
In the past decade or so, there's been a lot of market share cut from like the big brewers, like Anheuser, Coors, all of that. Like, people have been migrating to craft over time, away from these like cheaper national beers. But do you see people going back to that as they want, cheaper prices?
I do. I think you'll see a shift. I don't think it'll stay forever. I think it's just you want comfort, right? You walk in, you're not shopping. You're just looking and getting. You don't want to walk around people. You don't want to shop. You're walking in, you're grabbing what you grab. I think that middle tier is one of us we were speaking about earlier. I think are going to do very, very well. I think the big guys are going to do great. But yes, the market share over the year, it really hasn't lowered. It hasn't really raised beer into more and more gallons of beer. It's just split the pie up a lot more. So share, as you mentioned, has gone away, but profits are up. But I do think you're going to go back to what you feel comfortable with. It's going to take a little while before somebody goes out there and looks for that, double IPA that, you haven't really heard over, that it's new, or that, they're using a different hop. You're going to see basic beer for a while, not forever, but for a while. And I do think that'll help the share shift back to not necessarily the mega brewers like AB or Coors, Miller Coors, but you'll see a shift for a little bit. But those middle guys, the New Belgiums of the world, the Anchors of the world, the Sierra Nevadas, they're going to see probably a great growth for a little while as well. And then, as people get more comfortable and the guy doesn't mind investing 400 in a keg of, Pliny the Elder, it'll come back. It's just going to be a little while.
Oh, I guess one more. Do you see with these brewers, especially these craft breweries that at least are these mid-major ones, do you think they're just gonna like cut all the like seasonal stuff out and just like focus on like a handful of brands?
For a while, yeah, because it's too scary of an investment to think it could stop again. I mean, nobody can say if July 4th they open the bars and 1 million people get sick, that on August 4th they're not going to close them again. So I think you're going to go kind of back to mama, go back to what is going to sell. And if God forbid something happens again, you don't get stuck with it. So I think everything's going to be pretty much basic for the next year, basic stuff. And then you'll see it, when the guy feels comfortable and his inventory's good and he's got can supply, he's got everything. Then you'll start throwing stuff back in, different hops, different flavors, and saying, hey, I'm going to come out with a small batch of this, small batch of that. I think when it first opens up, you might have a problem with people that are sitting on beer, that want to move some of their older, what they got stuck with. I'm a little concerned about that. I know, we're going to have to, because they're just sitting on this inventory. So depending on how long their shelf life is and what they're sitting on, it'll be interesting. But I think you'll see the seasonals come back strong, but probably not until 2021. And again, just a guess.
I feel like it's like if you're hosting a party in your own house and you're having like 50 people come over,
Great.
You're not going to buy 100 different brands. You're going to buy just a couple that were most popular. And I feel like that's on a larger scale, not to oversimplify it, but that's kind of what you have to do. Pick and choose what's going to is your winners. And then at least for temporary.
And you can see that on a supermarket shelf right now. When you're walking down an aisle full of, whether it's toilet paper or potato chips and pretzels, you can see what's the popular one. They're empty. You got a lot of this crap over here, but you don't really know it that much. But Scott, hers, they're all gone. But the stuff, that is a little to the side, you're like, well, let me get what I need before I kind of get what I want. I think you're going to see some of that.
John, we'll get ready to hit the hour, and I want to thank you very much for taking your time out and your expertise. And luckily, we'll be able to record this and send this out to everybody. But one thing I'll let you know is that we'll be sending out the survey. We'll have the recording, and then this is my public service announcement. This is an event brought to you by the Educational Foundation. If you're not a donor and you'd like to contribute, please do if you have the capacity to do so. But there's a lot of you on this call that are Lifetime Giving Society members, have been giving every year, and we do appreciate it. Thanks to you, we're able to coordinate this effort to do stuff like this. And if you want more things like this and also other ways to educate, please give me those suggestions. I'm happy to put it together. It's not like I'm going anywhere. So, thank you all for being on this call. We appreciate it, and look for that survey. And thanks again. Thanks again.
Guys, thank you so much for giving me your time, and this was a lot of fun for me. So, Jay has my info. If anybody needs anything from me, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for putting
John.
this together.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Take care now.